this, but hopefully you guys will get a lot out of tonight's session. We're going to talk about some of the new things that are going on right in Washington State. As I was up to about this afternoon, there was new updates coming through. So I want to make sure everybody is aware of what's going on and how we're going to conduct business. And the good news for all of you is you're already accustomed to working in a webinar format. We've been doing this since 2014. I think is the first time we did a webinar and trained in this type of fashion. So just get prepared for more of this as we encounter some of the new changes coming down the pipe. So next slide. So tonight I want to cover some of the things that due to the coronavirus and all of the, I've been getting emails, you guys. I don't know if you are like I am, but I'm getting over 50 to 60 emails in an hour with different clothing, different vendors, different title and escrow company, MLSs, all kinds of people that are putting a little bit, we all want to be safe. We all want to make sure that we're, up to speed with the changes, but it is putting a lot of fear in a lot of people. And so I want to just reflect on the messaging that, we really should consider is that fundamentally, the reason I'm in real estate is because I love helping people make a change and see the satisfaction in their faces when they accomplish their dreams. So I've said that for years, and no matter whether we're in Corona or not, that is still my philosophy or my vision is I love helping people, whether it be agents like you in conducting real estate businesses or helping clients make those changes and see the satisfaction on their faces. It doesn't really matter whether we have Corona or not. That still is fundamentally my belief system. So the other part I want to share with you, and this is the messaging that I'm telling my clients, is that, there's basic needs. So a lot of people have texted me, Rochelle, how is this impacting the housing industry, the real estate industry? Really, it hasn't impacted the sales. In fact, we're having record-breaking sales at Best Choice Realty. I think we're having the strongest March we've had on record. Yes, there are certainly less sellers wanting to list their homes, but basic needs, food, clothing, and shelter really have not been impacted by the coronavirus. I feel for the people that are in the medical industry or people that are, the emergency people that are out there doing some tough jobs right now. I feel really, really sad and nervous for them. But as far as the basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter, as a real estate broker, we all have the luxury of working out of our home offices and having the ability of scheduling our appointments when we want to go out and show people homes or when we want to go out and tour properties. So we just want to be safe about that. But as far as my communication, it has been the same communication I've gone out the door. Don't miss the window of opportunity. Whether you're a buyer or a seller or somebody that's involved in commercial, don't miss the window because the interest rates are still at record lows. And I don't think they can go any lower than what they're already at right now. And that provides a very interesting opportunity for people who are willing to be strategic at how, their basic needs are being met. One of the things that I thought about last night as I was seeing all of the media coverage about Washington and then the different changes with the restaurants is that this is going to change the way that we think about housing. It's not just going to be the same as it was. And so for people like you guys who are on this webinar tonight, you need to think about housing. And so it may be different. Maybe you're showing homes on your mobile phone. It may be having checkpoints and things like that you do with your clients, but none of this is something you should shy away from. The recent notification came from the MLS about this afternoon, and that because of the King County changing the way that they're doing gatherings of 50 people or less, the MLS, Northwest MLS, has shut down the ability to advertise open houses on their website. I still think you're going to see in other areas that are not impacted by the corona, I still think you're going to see people who are going to advertise, say like in Eastern Washington, you may still see people doing advertising of open houses in other ways. But as far as the Northwest MLS is concerned, because they're based in Kirkland at the Hot Center, I would say that, you're gonna have a hard time at getting people in Kirkland, Seattle, Bellevue, any of the areas in King County to attend an open house. So you may want to think about how you're doing open houses and may not want to do them for a period of time until this has eased up. So I would not, if you have open houses, you probably are scheduled for this weekend. My understanding is that the Kirkland Northwest MLS office is in the process of calling everybody to let them know that they are no longer going to be promoting it on their website and that you should reconsider hosting those open houses, unless you're going to host them in a virtual open house where you're actually going to post it as a virtual open house, maybe on Facebook. That would be a great place on social media to do it, and have it posted in such a way where clients can watch you tour the home on like real time, do a Facebook live event. If you guys don't know how to do that, let me know and I will be happy to put one of my staff member in touch with you tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday so that you can be prepared to promote and market your open houses on social media. It could be just a virtual open house where you're touring people through on a live event. And I think you're going to see more of that in the Seattle and Bellevue, King County area specifically. Next slide. So that just happened today. City of Tukwila sent us out a message today as well, basically restricting who's coming and going through social venues. And this is similar to indoor social venues must cease operations until March 31st. So with that, we have rescheduled, retooled all of the trainings going on. We were already in the process of doing that anyways until the end of the March. Actually, all the way through April and May, we have decided to go virtual, meaning all of our trainings will be on webinar now. Starting this week, we have established a Zoom meeting link. It's the same webinar link. We're going to continue to do our training on leads to listings that Chicago Title was going to offer for us. This will be her first time doing it webinar, but I told her I would be happy to host it. So tomorrow, if you want to learn how to generate business and use lead systems through Chicago Title, how they use a way to capture leads, jump on tomorrow's call. It was going to be a lunch and learn, but we're going to make that a webinar. Same Zoom meeting link as you're on tonight. So what should you focus on? Really want to take care of yourself and your family. That is most important. My kids are home from school. McKinley is coming to work with me. So I have provided ways for my kids to actually learn the business and learn how to type and do different types of webinar. And one of my kids is doing webinar learning with his private school. The other one is home with no education. So we've had to find ways for her to keep up on her learning. Give more attention to your sphere of influence. I think that's a really important thing. I've just attended 2 weeks ago, I should be organizing my mobile phone and connecting better on my phone with people, my sphere of influence. So I've gone into a categorizing system. I've taken the challenge and I started from A. I'm already to the letter C or D. I have a lot of contacts though, of properly categorizing them so that I can easily communicate with my sphere of influence. So I'm only on day 3, but take the challenge of connecting more and spending more time with your sphere of influence, people that are close to you that know what you're all about, that know that you're in real estate. Give more attention to your past clients. So make sure you're checking in with them and making sure that you could even help, even if it's not real estate related. I'm finding the same thing as you are as I'm connecting with my past clients. One of my past clients was looking at selling. In fact, she sold her condo. We talked about that a few months ago last year. And then she was in temporary housing until she was going to purchase another house. And I had hooked her up with a contact down in Arizona. And that referral didn't go very well. And she didn't like the real estate agent. She contacted me before the corona and said, I want to focus on Washington. I want to buy a house in Washington. And so I had put her in touch with a lender and got her all hooked up. And just today she contacted me and things have changed. With the coronavirus and with her sister, she's going to be caring for her sister who has, respiratory problems. They are no longer treating her sister in the hospital. And so she now needs to care for her in the home, which is providing an interesting challenge where she's now wanting to, Rochelle, put my search on hold for a period of a few months, but I need to rethink what I'm going to do in my housing. So again, to the point that I started out this call, we need to rethink how we're communicating. We need to rethink how we're communicating about their housing needs. With people staying home with their kids longer, they're maybe going to need bigger spaces. No more are we going to want this small space. Their house is their homestead. where they do maybe homeschooling, where they actually spend time working out of their home office. You might see a rise in those types of things. So stay in contact with your past clients and see if their housing needs have changed or will change, or they envision things changing for themselves. And that might give you a clue. We're going to take a little break sometimes with some of the clients, but then my client, you know, with the change of having an elderly person that has respiratory problems, she's going to want to have like a mother-in-law suite. She did not want that before, but now she's not looking at a 2-bedroom. She's looking at a 3-bedroom that has the ability to have another kitchen or plumbing in that other room. So those are unique challenges that are going to come about because of housing. So if I'm having those conversations with my closed clients or past clients or sphere, you guys are going to start to see that happen in the coming months as well. Understand people will need to sell and they will need to buy. That is basic human nature. They need housing, they need clothing, and they need food. The grocery stores are not closing. They're just going to be strategic about who's going to the grocery store, who's going out on the tours. Maybe you're showing homes to the grandson or the child, and then you actually are doing a virtual tour with the person who is actually buying the property that maybe have health concerns or other problems and that are going to be susceptible to the corona. So think about that maybe the people you need to incorporate into the home search is not the person that you would typically be writing the deal for, but they are motivated because the rates are still very, very low. Follow up with your active sellers on all showings. Don't just call them and not just email. You want to make sure that you're doing all the touch points with your active sellers to keep them aware of what's going on. My sellers, I've got sellers who are looking to go on the market in March, April, and May. I've kept them abreast with what's going on in the housing market. Let them know that still the indicators are still very strong for sellers. Even with the corona, we are still seeing multiple offers in Federal Way to Tacoma. And those are the 2 areas that I've been focused on. Make sure that your sellers in Bellevue and Kirkland, and they're aware of how much inventory there is and what are the precautions that you guys are taking for showings. And what are you going to do to protect me and the people that are in my house? I've went ahead and across the board, if somebody is going to ask me to cancel the listing in Kirkland or Bellevue because of health concerns or they're worried, I don't have any questions asked. If you tell me that we want to cancel it, I'm releasing those sellers from the paperwork. So that would be a 52 or a 19. Both of those need to be signed in order for me to release the seller from their obligations. And most of the people are very, very accommodating, very happy that we're responding in that way. But you know, don't forget that it's not always in Bellevue and Kirkland that we're offering, or Seattle. Corona is now spreading out in other areas and other counties. Even now has a rise in the coronavirus. So make sure to talk about the risks and what you're going to do to control who comes and goes. There we go. Sorry, Shannon, go ahead and share the screen again. But make sure that there we go. Got a little, so you're gonna have a little bit of this with a lot of people on Zoom meetings too. People will really appreciate the personal touch. Make sure that you're slow and educating, treat others nicely, practice smiling, and say thank you and breathe deep. Those are my top 10 or 11 tricks or tips I can give you right now. Next slide. This one is a protocol form for showings, and we're going to make this tighten it up a bit. There's a few other adjustments we're going to make per our attorney, but this form will be available for those of you who are looking for a protocol form that they can include maybe as a supplement on your listings. So those of you who have open houses scheduled for this weekend, or maybe you have a seller who's a bit concerned about who's coming and going through their home, we're going to have this available as well, and you can have the buyer and the selling broker sign it. And it just gives them an opportunity that the buyer is pre-approved through a reputable lender. The buyer has watched the video walkthrough, the buyer has read the Form 17, and that they're going to leave all the doors open and refrain from touching any surfaces, and that the buyer has indicated that. Showing time is the best way to track who needs to go out and look. So we're going to utilize showing time more so than we have in the past. And then this is a protocol form that we can have available, and we'll make it available. If you want to send me an email, if you need it right away, I'll be happy to get it to you as quickly as possible tomorrow. But this will be an adjusted also for open houses. Or if you're going to still do an open house, just not have it advertised, we want to make sure that the buyers are signing this before they enter the property. We want to take all the precautions necessary. Okay, next slide, Shannon. This is a form. We are already seeing this in our contracts, and I want to make sure that you guys all are aware that when you're writing a contract, I think Jerry K is on the line. If you could unmute Jerry K, Shannon, that would be great, so I can have a conversation with Jerry K. But the optional clauses, we're seeing this, and this is perfectly okay to write. If you're writing an offer right now and you're wanting to protect, you know, what if the seller needs more time? What if the buyer needs more time because of Corona? This extension of the closing date also gives you some protection. Say, for example, the recording did not happen because the recorder wasn't, the online thing didn't work. King County now is going to be trying online recording because they're going to adjust the way they're doing their business in King County. So for things that are being written in King County, I'd rather have you guys get ahead of this by writing in on the extension of the closing date. You can use this verbiage. If the transaction fails to close before the scheduled closing date due to circumstances beyond the control of the party whose performance is delayed, the transaction shall close as soon as practicable, but in no event more than blank 10 days before the closing, beyond the scheduled closing date. So it's an automatic extension. I have a nicer way of saying that. So if you want my version, I will have it available as well, along with the form that I can send to you guys. I will send all this material out by email so I can make sure that it gets out to you. But if at no fault of either buyer or seller, if this sale fails to close on the scheduled closing date, the parties agree to extend up to, and then you put in a date. This is it's an automatic extension that we used way back in the day when things were going, for whatever reason, the recorders were not recording. We had to pull this back from, I think, 2004, 2005 circa. So this is an extension that you can incorporate, and that is the place that I want to see it, you guys, if you're going to include it, is write it in on the 22D other section. If you could do that for me, that would keep me from trying to match up Form 34s and all of that fun stuff. If you are going to want an extension, let's go ahead and put it right in the 22D other section. If you could do that and help me out, that would be awesome. If you have parties that are sensitive to the Corona, that is the place that we want to write it. Don't put it on a Form 34, please. Let's put it on that. Other companies are allowing for Matterport to be at discount, so you may want to check with your virtual tour company or your photographer to see if they're willing to offer discounts for those types of marketing. So right now, John Wilbanks, I've used before, he sent me an email about 30% discount on the Matterport. So there are going to be those types of opportunities to get you to as a listing agent, go ahead and use 3D Matterport or use some sort of video tour. Down in Pierce County and Thurston County, I have a great contact. He worked on our videography, and he will do a really good price for you. In fact, I still have one for free that he's willing to do for me in Pierce or Thurston. So if you have a listing coming up in Pierce or Thurston and you want a video tour for free, the first person that emails me, I will put you in contact with him. He did a fantastic job of our videography in our office. So that's one, but that's not the one I'm talking about. I have another guy down south. So we were, even before Corona, we were in the process of really getting some of the cool things about Best Choice Realty is being virtual, that we operate with small office spaces and that you guys work out of your home office spaces, and that we were actually, before even Corona hit the ground, we actually started creating. We're the only company that I know of right now in Washington. There's one in Vancouver, BC, and one in Oregon, and the other one is a Better Homes and Gardens that has a recruiting platform that can be done strictly virtual. And so we were the first ones in Washington to go ahead and create this. So if you want to go to, or send potential people that you think would be a great asset to Best Choice Realty, go back to one slide, Shannon. You'll have them go to bestchoicerealtyjobs.com. They will go, this is live right now. They can send an inquiry just by clicking that button, or they can take some of these quizzes. There's a personality quiz, there's a virtual interview that actually has Nick Minky, our recruiter. He's actually on video. Our videographer actually did video of him sitting at his desk doing an actual virtual interview. almost kind of spooky when you think about it, because that virtual interview was done before Corona even hit. We worked on that in January. We scripted it and filmed it, I believe, the end of January 31st. And so it's live. Tonight, you'll be able to access, or your other real estate agents that you may know from other companies who want to live and work in a virtual world and keep a lot of their commission, they can go right to our website here, bestchoicerealtyjobs.com, and they can take the virtual interview. I'm going to let you guys, if you want to, take the personality quiz if you want to test that out. That's really informative, and Nick will be happy to send you your results, or any of the other knowledge tests, or there's a few other tests that are kind of fun that you can take, and then you'll get results. I'll let Nick forward those results to you as he gets them, but it's pretty fun to take some of those quizzes. The one for new brokers, if you're new to Best Choice Realty, go back one slide, Shannon, and scroll down. If you're new to Best Choice Realty, scroll down so we can see the other parts on the slide. Maybe we don't have the, if you go scroll down, there's a personality quiz, and then there's a knowledge test, and then there's another one that's a sales skills. If you're new to the industry, that sales skills will give you kind of a virtual kind of help in knowing what to say to people on the phone. It kind of challenges your thought and then spits out some results that I think are pretty reflective on whether you were listening to the client and when you're meeting them in person for the first time. And it goes through and mocks up a real live buyer consultation appointment and a listing appointment, and it allows you to answer some questions based on a role play that was done. And I thought it was well done. I took it just over the weekend to see how well it was working. And then it did give me some results. And so now I have a baseline on what our Best Choice Realty agents are looking for. If we're not interviewing them in person, we are asking them to take one or two of these kind of quizzes, or if they're new to the business, we're having them take the sales quiz, because it is kind of as real life as you can get as far as how do you listen to clients. That part hasn't changed. Go to the next slide, Shannon. Next one. I think we're okay. Awesome. So Debbie DeGroat, as many of you guys know, I have a really strong relationship with Debbie. She's out of California, and there's new news that they've shut down San Francisco. And so she is hosting a special webinar to go over scripts on how to thrive in the chaos. And so there's a link, and I'm going to go ahead and post this on our website, as well as have it available in the email I'm going to send everybody. So you could attend this conference call that's made to help you with the scripting, what to say on the phone. And if you need anything else that's helpful, Debbie is a very close friend of mine, and she's in it just as we are too. She's seeing that, oh my gosh, you know, the world is changing as we know it, and you've got to be able to master the webinar and be able to converse with people by phone rather than meeting in person. So for the time being, let's make sure that we have yourself set up, or you know how to communicate by showing things on your phone, on your mobile phone, or be able to utilize a system like Zoom so that you can connect with clients that may not want to go out and look at homes. There's a way to do that easily, and we're going to help you learn how to do that. If you jumped on my Zoom webinar meetings, they're not hard to do. It's using technology like that to connect with clients that may be a little bit skittish to go out and look at properties. The last tip I'll give you guys before we wrap up is on the earnest money. When you're writing your offers, it would be better to have your earnest money. I think we're accustomed always to just do personal check, but people are now afraid to go out and even go into office spaces to deliver the earnest money in the check format. So a better way to do it would be to check the box other and indicate that it's going to be an ACH or wire in the other section. And then what you need to do is contact your escrow company who's handling the earnest money for you, and have them either, some of them have done ACH, CW Title is one of them. There's other companies that are starting to get on that, that type of methodology of depositing the earnest money electronically. But every single escrow company that we work with, every single one, even if it's down in Thurston County, Title and Escrow, or Lewis County, all of them would accept wires. You can write ACH or wire in the other section on your contract. If you could do that, I think you'll alleviate a lot of the fear and the anxiety that's out there, because the seller is a little nervous. As, you know, if it's a check, will it not get deposited in time? Will something shut down? Will the office not be available? Let's go ahead and just take that worry off the table for them. And on all of the contracts that we're seeing, let's go ahead and write in ACH or wire, check the box other, and have it deposited. ACH would be automatic clearinghouse. Jerry K, is that correct?
ACH, yeah, clearinghouse. Yep.
Okay, I'm not stumped today. Is there anything else, Jerry K? You review a lot of the contracts that are coming through. Is there any kind of things you can share with the group?
Like Rochelle mentioned, in King County, we are also hearing it down in Pierce County too. Lisa Schultz from Chicago sent out a video link today saying that they're trying to do e-recordings, but that doesn't actually mean that they'll be able to meet the close date, that they are restructuring all the staff people. So putting that language is a very good time. And you know, we are seeing more rescissions. I mean, I just had one today that, you know, I asked Nick, why are they rescinding? Because they're asking me what forms do we use? And I said, well, why? Oh, just because they're afraid. Or I had one that because the stock market crashed, they don't have enough money now for the down payment or what they were planning on coming in with. So
right,
lots of things are coming up and we just need to work through it.
So also check your lenders. If you're representing a seller and you have a buyer who's got a loan, let's make sure you're reaching out to those lenders and making sure they're on top of their files, not waiting until the last week or the day before closing, because you never know. Some of those things happen and they would get their earnest money returned to them in that instance.
But don't promise them you can get their earnest money out unless you speak to the applicable parties.
Perfect. Can you also, Shannon, do you mind putting up on the screen, Jerry K, is there anything else you can think of that I'm not covering? I've got some brokers who have been using, even before Corona, they use GoToMeeting, they're using Google Hangout, they're using Skype, and they're using Zoom. Those are the 4 different webinar formats that are the best that we've heard that people are using. GoToMeeting, Google Hangout, Zoom, and I mean, it's just you familiarizing in Skype, you know, familiarizing something that you're accustomed to using, that you're going to be able to be comfortable with, and using that as a way to get your clients maybe to see some different properties. Our brokers that are out showing homes, they bring gloves, they're taking all the necessary precautions when they're going out. It's almost like they treat the gloves like they're booties, literally. So they just have gloves for all the people, even if there's kids that are going in or looking at properties. We still have actually a lot of showings that are happening. There are still multiple offers on listings. And so we're not seeing that type of slowdown, but yes, you are seeing, you know, things happen, fall out with inspection or underwriting, things like that. So be prepared to write some unique language. Shannon, if you could pull up your email, there's a one more goodie I'm going to end with tonight. And it was somebody that sent this to me a while ago. This is when we were having some of the same challenges with inventory. And I thought this was good to kind of end with. Nope. It was tips. If you can click on the tips one. Nope, it's one you haven't checked. There you go. So I can also include this too, but this is one where the inventory is still, they're low inventory in all the areas we service in Washington. So these are some tips that may kind of put things into perspective. Sellers in possession after close. So you may want to consider when you write, don't just think, oh, the closing date is this. Maybe you want to allow the seller to rent back from the buyer for 60, 90, or 120 days after close of escrow. That gives them more time to locate a replacement home. That might be a winning strategy. So you might want to think about some of these strategies as you're creating those win-win opportunities for both the buyer and the seller. We have not seen people sale subject to seller finding a suitable replacement property. That is something that can be done in California and other places of the country. We do not have what they call a seller contingency in Washington. So there's not a sale subject to seller finding a suitable replacement property. So you cannot use number 2. Maybe an attorney figures out, because of the changes that we're experiencing here in Washington, maybe that will become a way that will allow the seller to stay in their property unless they find a suitable property. Maybe that will come up on the table again, but number two, you can't use. But sellers are asking about these things. Is there a way for me to back out because I don't want to move to another place? I've had that come up at least 3 times in the last 30 days. So be prepared to answer number two, that in Washington, there's not a seller contingency. But number three, they should consider if they're going to sell, you could move into temporary living quarters. Moving twice can be stressful, but that gives you more time to take advantage of finding a suitable replacement home. And it gives you a position to make an all cash offer or to have secure financing in a challenging market. So that's a strategy that works. So you could take some of these ideas and make them your own, except not number two. Number four, seller locates a replacement homes, enters into a contract. So then there's this way of like, we go into a home sale contingency. I right now have one that's working really well right now, where we have to wait for them to sell their condo, but you know what? There's no hurry and no rush. And the buyer and the seller don't want to feel rushed. And so you need to think about that when you're writing your offers. Maybe if you have a buyer and seller who both think alike, putting your house on the market subject to a home sale contingency may not be a big deal. And we just extend it based on the price point. So number four is actually working really well. Number five, bridge loans have made a comeback so that you can talk with your mortgage broker. It's either doing a bridge loan or a home equity line of credit. And doing that type of financing. So it gives them some, just some wiggle room so that they're not feeling strapped for cash. The 401k, borrow against your 401k, that might be a way to get into a property and actually take advantage of the low interest rates. So these kind of strategy are really kind of thinking outside the box. And that's what I want to get out to you guys is don't just hunker down and think that real estate's going to just go away, because people still need to buy and sell homes. And probably even more so as we start to get the kids back in the house and dad's now working out of the home office and distractions and they want the door closed and the house is not big enough. You're going to start to see some more frustrations, and that's going to they need a real estate agent that's forward thinking, strategic minded, local, and that has a good pulse of what's going on. So don't dig your head in the sand and think that this will all go away. It's just you have to think differently about how you approach the situation. And be positive with some of your ideas. And go to the next, scroll down, Shannon. I think that was number 7. I think that was 8, the home equity line of credit. Yeah. So there's some other ideas that I can shoot your way. I'll put this as well as the addendum or like supplement that you can use. And then if you guys have any other things that you're doing, if you could post that on the Facebook group, things that you run into, or, here's what I did to accomplish that. Share with the group if you could. I know there's a few really, really good brokers that participate a lot on the Facebook group, but it could really help us if you guys post a bit more about challenges that you may have encountered and how you dealt with them, or ways that or ideas that you could use help with. We actually had to cancel the script class on Friday, which was very unfortunate. We're going to have to redo it in a different format. But that kind of stuff, share more online or in a webinar format, and that way we could all learn from each other. We're all in it together. I'm not hanging up my license anytime soon. I just have to think differently and then help you guys when you have questions. So let me know if you want to set up a time. We can even do a webinar Zoom meeting. I could show you how to use it in your business a bit more. And I've even reached out to a couple of our agents to ask for their emails on what do they send when they're trying to get their clients to engage more in a virtual way. But that's the kind of stuff that will really help us all. So keep up the good work, you guys, and let's end the month with March pretty strong. We're shooting to have 156 transactions in the month of March. That's not a bad month for Best Choice. So go get them. Talk to you soon.